Hey, what's up everybody? Ryan the Vintage Viking here, and I'm going to do a tag video. This is the first one I've ever done, so might be a little clunky. We'll see. I don't know. But this tag was, this is the Fear the Booktuber tag, and this was created by David's book reviews, and I will put the link to David's book reviews down below. I was tagged from another video by my friend Cliff at Cliff's Dark Gems. And I will also put his link down below as well. So there are 9 questions that are asked, or prompts, or however you go about it. I don't know the tag appropriate lingo to use here, so I'll just do my best, man. So the first one is, what is your deepest, darkest fear? And I really it took me a little bit to figure this one out, because I don't know, I'm not like super scared of, major things. I would guess probably, I'm trying to think of movies that scared me the most, or just gave me a sense of like anxiety or dread or whatever, and see what ones worked on me the most. I don't know. So probably one of the movies that I think made me feel that sense of like panic or anxiety or dread was Open Water. And so I think maybe there's a deep fear of like deep ocean, or a fear of like being like stuck out in the middle of nothing, nowhere, and all you look around and there's absolutely nothing around. I think probably the same would be as if maybe there's another, maybe it's just extreme isolation is my fear. Because I can also think of like if I was on a spaceship or something, that moment where someone drifts off and they're just floating in nothingness, and then they're just out in the middle of nowhere. But I guess there's no fear of something like attacking you. So the deep ocean, with sharks swimming around or something, maybe that's probably my biggest one, I guess. So I don't mind the water. I don't mind going to the ocean, what have you. It's just the far out part of it, I think. All right, so question number 2 is, what is your scariest book that you've read this year? And who is your favorite scary author that you started this year? So I think both of those kind of blend together for me. I don't really have any scary books that I've, like, in the sense of books that actually brought fear or scared me. I'm always looking for something that might actually terrify me on the page where I'm trying to read it and be scared. I haven't read anything yet like that. Maybe the one that could have potentially been scary for someone, or maybe one that is, gives a little bit of tension when reading it as you're waiting to see what happens. I don't know. That's probably the closest I can get. And I would have to say Stir of Echoes by Richard Matheson is maybe the closest thing to that this year. It starts off and he's at a party, and they are having fun talking about hypnotism, and his, I think, brother-in-law hypnotizes him. And then afterwards he starts receiving these visions and things like that, and events that go on that really kind of take over his life and cause him to be fearful and in dread throughout everyday life. So I'd say that's maybe something that could really bother somebody, or could potentially be a little bit scary. You've probably seen the movie Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon back in the day, so that was what the movie was based off of. And to answer the second part of the question, who is my favorite scary author that I've started this year, would probably be Richard Matheson. I'm enjoying reading through The Shrinking Man, and then also Hell House I read, and then I have a few others on my list of his to read, and I've just enjoyed that so far. So probably that's where I'm at so far this year. I would love any recommendations on books that might actually scare me when turning the page. So the third question is, what book are you too scared to read? I don't know if I have any that I'm too scared to read, but maybe one of the ones I've heard the most about that is supposed to be very like disturbing and gross or whatever, that I've kind of like maybe has the most lore around it. You know, like this book is like, ooh, this one messes people up or something. Maybe that's close enough. Cows by Matthew Stocko. Is that right? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I've heard a lot about this book from a lot of different people that it's quite disturbing. So maybe this is closest to something that I know is going to be messed up. I don't know if there's any that I'm too scared to read, but maybe ones that I've heard the most about that are like... All right, question number 4 is, what frighteningly good author needs more attention on Booktube? And this one's kind of a tough one because I think a lot of people have covered quite a few different authors. I'm not super familiar with a lot of new authors, so there might be some new ones that are out there that are really up and coming that are just deserving of some more attention. I think one of the older authors that maybe has been lost in the shuffle is kind of who I mentioned earlier, Richard Matheson. I've really started to enjoy pretty much everything that Richard Matheson has written. There's so much that is out there that maybe we've not even realized was written by Matheson, and we've probably seen the movie or something and then realized later, oh, that was a Richard Matheson book. So some of those being The Shrinking Man is one that he wrote. He wrote some short story collections that are awesome. Shock 2, Shock. These collections are fantastic. He wrote I Am Legend. So that's a very famous one. This is another one of a short story collection, 13 from the Sun, or Third from the Sun, excuse me. 13 Tales. Hell House, it's Richard Matheson one. Duel is a short story collection. And this is, Steven Spielberg did his first film called Duel, and it was adapted from this. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet is another well-known one. And What Dreams May Come. I don't know if you ever saw that movie with Robin Williams back in the day. Weird movie, but Matheson wrote that. Also Stir of Echoes. Stir of Echoes. So I think Matheson wrote a lot of great stuff that has been missed out on by many people who haven't seen or heard of his writings in quite a long time. I know he's very well known for I Am Legend, but there's so many other ones that are actually excellent as well. All right, the 5th one is, what is your favorite scary movie? And I think I could probably do a whole video just on this. Like, pick a genre, pick a subgenre of horror scary movies. Is it, you know, like a slasher? Is it an isolation? Is it a deep space? Is it underwater? Is it, you know, like, oh, there's so many that I could just, you know, you can go the route of zombies or whatever. You know, there's so many that you could just go to town with. So this is a tough one. I'll maybe answer this in 2 parts. The first movie that scared me the most, or that I saw when I was younger, that really stuck with me and kicked off my love of scary movies, was actually Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I saw that when I was, I was probably 11 or so, 12 maybe, somewhere in there. And up to that point, I hadn't had any experience with any kind of scary movies or anything like that. I'd seen some action movies that were intense, but nothing like a scary movie. And I was living with my dad at the time. My parents had just got divorced. My dad wanted to, you know, make me feel special. So he's like, all right, let's go to Blockbuster. Blockbuster is this ancient building. And it used to contain these tapes, and they were enclosed in these hard cases. And these tapes had film on them. And you would go and you would ask them, can I take this one? And you'd give them some money, and they'd say, yes, you need to bring it back in 3 days. And so you would take it home, and you'd put it in this machine, and it would go in, and it would pull this tape into it, and you'd hear all this whirring and gadgetry and stuff like that. And then pop onto your screen, that would slightly glow, crackle, and then turn on to this movie. It was a magical time. Anyways, so we would go to he was like, let's go to Blockbuster. You can pick up whatever you want. And I was like, oh, all right. I want something scary. I've always wanted to watch something scary. So I got somehow Pet Sematary by Stephen King. And I didn't know anything about it, never even heard of it before. And so I went back to watch that. And at the time, my dad lived way out in the woods at this old farmer's house. And my dad rented the basement of the farmer's house. And so you had to go like through these cellar doors, down these stairs into this like concrete downstairs area. And so it was like the perfect environment for this. And there was a little TV on the corner, and I popped it in and I watched it, and I was absolutely terrified. It was so intense for me. So that was probably the one that has scared me the most. Probably one of my favorites that I just love, that hits all the perfect things that I love about horror movies, is Event Horizon. It is a deep space. It is like a salvage crew going into a abandoned ship, and they don't know what's going to happen. So it's horror and it's a mix of sci-fi. So it kind of captures everything I love. Any kind of deep space horror sci-fi movie I absolutely love, as well as like deep underwater, like The Abyss or something. I love that kind of stuff. So I'd have to say Event Horizon is one of my favorites. There's a million out there. So number 6 is, whose channel produces the scariest videos? And I don't know if I found a channel that has like scary videos, but I would say one of the channels I think has the best content that has to do with scary things like books, movies, things like that, is In Praise of Shadows. In Praise of Shadows has a video on there just specifically on vintage paperback covers, and why, over time we've lost that beautifulness of the 80s type covers on books. So it's an awesome video. There's a lot of stuff on movies. It's very well done. It's extremely informational. It's not necessarily scary. I mean, there's some scary stuff that is added in there, but that's probably my recommendation for that. All right, and number 7 is, who is a new horror tuber whose sub count is very, very low, or frighteningly low for the content that they have. So they deserve to be have a little more bump in their subs because the content is great. So I've not become super familiar with a lot of newer content. The one that I found recently that I've enjoyed, I'm always just kind of looking and searching and trying to find new stuff. So the most recent one, or the one that I found recently that I enjoy the most, is Horror Gardener. And he has some great reviews on there, as well as some great finds on, like book hauls and things like that. Probably the thing that drew me in the most and made me go, okay, this guy's cool. I haven't even watched the video yet, but I know he's an okay guy, because he has an Army of Darkness poster behind him and a Thing like box or poster behind him as well. So I mean, right there you got Army of Darkness and the Thing. You're good. You're good in my book. So that's probably my recommendation for that one. All right, the 8th one is, if you met Pennywise, what creature would he turn into? So if you met Pennywise, what creature would Pennywise turn into? As you know, Pennywise turns into your greatest fear. So in the spider is one of the ones that's kind of the big one. This is a tough one. I don't know. I asked my daughter what she thought, because she loves it, and she said a megalodon. So I think that's kind of her scary thing, is a megalodon would come and Pennywise would turn into that. That would be an interesting scenario if Pennywise turned into a megalodon. But I don't know. I am not super, I can be kind of creeped out by bugs and spiders sometimes, but not in a way that's like terrifying. Because I work under houses a lot, and in attics and things like that, so I'm always crawling in like super confined spaces with bugs all over everywhere, and I've seen all kinds of just nasty stuff. Used to be pretty afraid of spiders, but that kind of changed after I've seen a billion of them, and they're not as bothersome or, you know, anymore. I do not like this though when I'm working underneath a house or something and I've crawled and I've wedged myself in somewhere kind of tight, and I'm like upside down, like working on something above me, and there's like a cluster of like spiders, or like, you know, there at some points I've had black widows just chilling like right there, and I'm working like, oh, don't drop on me, please. Yeah. So in that sense, I'm a little bit creeped out by spiders, but it's more about that I can't move and I can't do anything to stop what's happening. What would total derailment and sidetrack on that question. What would Pennywise turn into? I don't know, I think a great white shark would be pretty intense. Maybe that's one of my bigger fears, is being in the ocean with, you know, like I said, way out deep in the ocean and have sharks around. But yeah, I think that would be pretty intense. Just the massive rows of teeth right there in your face. I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm sure anything that Pennywise turned into at that moment and was right in front of you would be terrifying. So, number 9. What novel scared you so much that it made you uncomfortable? I don't have a novel that has scared me so much it's made me uncomfortable. I have things that I've read that made me uncomfortable that I didn't want to keep reading, but nothing that scared me necessarily where I was uncomfortable and couldn't continue, couldn't read it, or had to put it down for a minute. I would like to find some stuff that's that terrifying or scary that is needing to be like, oh man, I can't do this. I can't read it right now. That would be good to find, but I don't think I have one of those. All right, and finally, who can I tag in this video to answer these questions? And I think a good one would be the guy I mentioned earlier, Horror Gardener. That would be great. I'd love to hear what he has to say on these, and I'd also really love to hear Criminali answer these questions. I know that's a bigger channel, and Criminali has, if you don't know Criminali's fantastic videos and just a huge wealth of information on just everything horror and, you know, like mystery, crime, you know, stuff like that. So, but I would love to hear the answers to those questions. So I'm going to go ahead and tag those two people in this, and we'll see what happens. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging. And thanks to Cliff's Dark Gem for tagging me in this one. And catch you on the next one.